welcoming Chantal Preston. Welcome to Women Express.
Hi, guys. Thank you so much for having me today.
So excited. The thing that we do here, as I mentioned before we started, we don't love to read bios because we want to hear from you. But one of the things I love on your bio here is you have a Texas-sized vision and a no-nonsense approach. So tell us a little bit about you.
I'm sure everyone loves that, guys. So let's just say that out loud. But, why I say that is because, a lot of times women, we think we can't be direct and we can't be authoritative because, we're supposed to be shrinking in the corner. So, I've lived my life by, hey, I'm not really worried about what you think about me. I know who I am and what I can bring to the table. So that's where that Texas size, just that mindset comes from. And I think Denise talking a little bit about what you were talking about up front is how do we use our voices? And so throughout my career, that's kind of what it got me where I wanted to be, was advocating for myself and how can we help more women do that? So that's that Texas size, no nonsense. Not everybody likes my no nonsense. Let's just say that out loud. But I have learned that, if you do it in the right way, people will respect you for that. And so that's where that no nonsense comes from.
So
well, that's always a good thing. That's always a good thing,
Always.
to be no nonsense and to make sure that who you are comes out. And it sounds like that's what you do.
Yeah, just to give you a little history, I'll go ahead and talk a little bit about my history and how that came about, because I can't say I've always been like that. So, I'm a healthcare entrepreneur, and, when you're young, what you think you're going to be and what you end up being are two totally different things. I haven't.
Amen for that.
Yes, exactly. I was like, oh, I know exactly. I'm like, yeah, good luck. Call me in 10 years. But, coming out of college, not really knowing a whole lot, I got a great opportunity of being in healthcare. Didn't know anything about it, but realized if I got this opportunity, it's all about who you know, not what you know in life. How can I take advantage of that and really find a niche for myself? So as, I grew up trying to find people and I was a human sponge. How can I find mentors that can help me understand the business, not just what I was hired to do, but all aspects of the business?
Yeah.
And that's really what happened. And, I was very fortunate. I got into healthcare, started learning how to build healthcare facilities, but also how to operate them. And I never had to look for a job from there. And I was always recruited. I went out on my own at the age of 27. I was building long-term acute care hospitals. I was building surgical hospitals, all different types of facilities for clients.
Wow.
Went out on my own. And then I realized about 30, 31, I'm like, I don't want to be doing this forever. I want people around me. I'm a very sociable person.
Mm-hmm.
I talked my business partner at that time into leaving his company, and we started a company called Atlantic Health Group. Atlantic was really built around being a surgery center company, but it was such a saturated market and healthcare was starting to transition at that point.
Yeah.
So we had a gentleman come to us and say, we want to do a brain injury rehab facility. We're like, great. We have no idea what that is, but let's do it, right? How hard can it be? Kind of that mentality of we'll figure it out later. So at that point, we started a company called Mentis Neurorehabilitation, and we were in an assisted living licensed facility, but we would treat people both cognitive and physically that had some type of traumatic brain injury.
Wow.
It was a fascinating world. I have to be honest. I knew nothing about it getting into it. But I didn't realize the demand that was there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of like I explained to people, you're too well to be in the hospital, but you're not well enough to go home. So where do you go? And a lot of those folks would fall through cracks and they would end up to being a nuisance in society and their family's problem. We wanted to get people back to work in some capacity where they were active participants in their own lives. And that's what we did. And we were very proud of that.
Nice.
So it was a great partnership because we didn't raise a whole lot of money. I know kids love to raise money nowadays. We wanted to bootstrap everything. And so I kept consulting on one side so we could pay the bills on the other. And we just slowly built a very incredible business. And of course, we surrounded ourselves with the right folks. But then we exited in 2015. We sold to private equity. Call me, anybody, if you decide to do that. I'll give you all the pros and cons. It was a great opportunity for us to continue to expand. However, once that happened, things change.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's going to give you a lot of money and then not think that they know more than you do. And just my heart wasn't in it anymore. It became about the economics, not about the outcomes. And my heart just wasn't in it. So about a year in, I said, thanks, but no thanks. I'm going to go move on to other things. And so the last 10 years have been around my other healthcare ventures. I own hospitals. I have one of the largest investors of the largest fertility company in North America.
Amazing.
But I really don't sit as an active role in those anymore in the last few years. Now I'm all about how can I empower and elevate other women and help them achieve what they want to achieve through some of my stories and experiences.
I love that.
That's really good.
I think one of the key things here that I'm hearing is when it felt not good for you personally, based on maybe your morals, values, interests, passions, you decided, okay, to transition. How do you bet on yourself in that way? And how do you figure out, okay, here's where I go next? Because I think a lot of people probably are in your shoe. They've been doing something for a long time. It started one way and it turned into something else. And they're like, this isn't for me anymore. But I think that next step is that scariest one. It's like, I personally, you sit in your goal, you're setting your goals. Okay, these are my goals, but then you write them down. How do you actually get to that other side?
It's a great question. And, I think everybody has that aha moments in their lives.
Mm-hmm.
And, earlier in my career, it was like I knew exactly what I wanted. I
Mm-hmm.
grew up in a world where your value was all based off of money and title. And so as long as I captured that money and title, I had reached what I felt was my have it all moment.
Yeah.
And then when I got there, I realized, wait a minute, this is nothing like they told me it was going to be like.
Mm-hmm.
You can have the money, the title, all those things and still not be fulfilled inside. And that was a hard reality check for me. I mean, I was young. I was very fortunate. I was only 41. And it really made me take a step back and say, wait a minute, what's important to me? And I don't think I really ever did that because society was telling me what was important. My parents were telling me what was important. I was so focused on the outcome, I forgot about the journey along the way.
Mm-hmm.
And
Interesting. Good point.
that was where I took a step back and I said, wait a minute, I need to take a breath here and determine
Mhm.
I'm not fulfilled. I had a complete identity crisis after we sold because everybody's like, oh, sell your company, make a lot of money, do it. That's great. But you're talking about taking something that is basically your
Built your
baby.
baby. It's your
Yeah.
baby.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden it's not yours anymore. And
Hmm.
as much as we want to say don't fall in love with the product, you do. It's important
Yeah.
to you. You've built these teams. And so then it was like, now who am I? And
Mm-hmm.
even today, 10 years later, I still sometimes struggle with who I am because it's like, well, I'm used to being that big wig, C-level person, entrepreneur. And now it's like, well, I'm just writing a book. I have a podcast. And you
Yeah.
sometimes feel like you're not as valuable as you used to be. So I think it's a lot of that mindset. And so I also, just to answer your question further, is we used to think in where do you want to be in 5 years, 10 years? I got to the point where it's like so much can happen during that time frame that I can't control. How
Right.
do I look at things a little bit differently? Like what's important right now, but what's important in 3 months, 6 months?
Mm-hmm.
And I looked at not maybe looking so far out. You always have those big goals way out
Yeah.
there,
Yeah.
but how do I kind of more bite size that I can achieve over a period of time? Because as sometimes you'd have to look and pivot. Maybe it's not the right time in your life because my kids are growing. I mean, I've got one that's getting ready to be a sophomore in high school in about a week. That scares me a little bit. So how do I figure out what am I going to do right now with being able to integrate both my personal and my professional?
Well, it's interesting that
Yeah.
you would bring this up because I was just sitting here because I'm in my own phase transition in
Mm-hmm.
my life in preparation for just I'm moving from a single family home because the kids are all gone to a condo, spending some time in the country, business is changing. There's certain things I want to focus on, there's certain things Nia wants to focus on. And
Mm-hmm.
it made me think what you just said just before you said that was there are so many different phases in your life. So if you see your progress as a journey, yes, but if you see it as a linear, you're going
Mhm,
to trip yourself up.
mhm.
Yeah.
Done that too, because it's not linear. It's probably more on a spiral. I
Yeah.
mean, you might find yourself going linear and then something changes. Oh my goodness, I have a child that's about to be a sophomore in high school. How do I feel about that? And that has an effect on how things, and so that spiral begins to happen again. I
Mm-hmm.
just feel that we live our lives from a spiral more than we do from the linear. The linear is true. Life can be straight, but I think life is more in a spiral than it is in a straight line.
No doubt. And that's part of the problem. Sorry guys, something just fell down. That's part of the problem is we expect everything to go along exactly like we think it's going to. And
Right.
it doesn't. And so we don't prepare for those pivotal moments where we may have to redirect based on something happening.
Right.
I had a situation, my mom unexpectedly passed away a few years ago. It was
Oh,
completely
sorry.
out of the blue and it changed every aspect of my life and kind of what was important right then. Sometimes you get those little hints as to maybe there's bigger things that are more important in life. And so
Hmm.
you do have to sit back and rethink and say, is this the right time and place in my life to be doing X, Y, and Z?
Yeah.
But I think
Yeah.
women are so conditioned that it's like, let's just get it all done right now. We
Yeah.
Mhm.
don't ever stop to think about how does it all play in together?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
And
And I
sometimes
think,
those pivotal moments don't let you do that either. I mean, a
right.
pivotal moment, if I'm just sitting here thinking about it, kept coming up in my mind in addition to this conversation, was what happened in 2020
Yeah.
when all of a sudden the doors were closed. And, we had just finished doing a in-person presentation skills class. We just finished it in Las Vegas with our largest client. Always loved it. Always loved being in person. Got home on Saturday because we stayed an extra day, and Monday morning everything shut down.
Mhm.
The whole
And
world
I
changed.
can remember going, "Oh, how are we going to survive this?" And you kind of have to listen to that intuition within yourself. And women have, I want to say, ladies, I mean, you might think that I'm being too generalized, but I think we do have a healthy portion of intuition, and you've got to follow that intuition. My intuition said call up the biggest client and set up virtual classes with them. And I
Right.
did, and he said yes. So it's amazing that that spiral moment, or those moments of pivot, because pivot is on the spiral. I mean, pivot is on
Yeah.
the spiral. It's not a straight line, and it's really important that you follow that intuition. I think Nia was trying to say something. Go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to come back to about doing it all and having it all, because I think when we do get hit with these moments, at least for me, I feel like I'm going through a bit of a transition myself, but I feel like I have to get it all done. It's like, okay, I want to be this person. And if I want to be this person, I have to do these 4 steps. And to get to those steps is these 5 things. But then at the end of your day, you just feel like such a failure. Or, oh, that this didn't work out in my life. So now what's wrong with me? And what I've been trying to do within these past couple weeks, and I feel like this is something we touched on before with you, is micro moments. So
Yeah.
for right now, I'm just, okay, what I want to do is get back into a consistent routine. Let's start there and do that for a few weeks, and that's great. And then you have your plan. So the kind of a 3-month plan, instead of, I've really been getting away from doing that as well and doing quarterly. So that's the 3 months. Instead of having a full year, this is what I want to do. Okay, what do I want to do this quarter of my life?
Mhm.
And just doing it small. So this week, I'm joining a run club. That's it. No more pressure for anything else you need to do in life. Just get to that run club consistently for the next 3 months. And then next month, what do I want to do for myself? And apply it there. I think we try to take on way too much in our lives. But because we're women, we are juggling career, family. I look at myself all the time. I'm like, why do I care so much about romantic relationships? Why can't I just be like, I'm driven, I'm focused on work, I'm focused on myself? But we, it's our nature.
Because society tells you that, and you've got,
Yeah.
we're living in a world where instead of us deciding what do we want, it's like we're listening to society's telling that. People around us, you look at your friends, we're comparing ourselves.
Right.
And Nia, you brought up something so great because it's almost like to a certain degree, we think that being busier is better.
Mm-hmm.
To your point, you said, I've got the world's never ending to-do list, right?
Yes.
How much can we get done? And then it's like a cycle to your point of it's a never ending process that we can't ever get to somewhere where we feel like we're accomplishing something
Right.
because then it's always a failure. So we're setting ourselves up for failure before we even get started because
Right.
it's like, I can't get all these things done. And that's where, to your point, I wish I was as disciplined as you about I only have one thing, but it's like, what are my top 3 priorities I got to get done? And then
Yeah.
everything else on top of that is gravy
Right.
because we get so caught up and we have to check all the boxes. And if we don't, then it's internally, we're like, we're a failure or we didn't get anything done. What did I get done today? Well, let's talk about all the things that aren't on your checklist
Right.
when it comes to the mental load that we carry, whether it's with a family, whether it's with our friends, whether it's with our parents. I mean, there's all these things that we're carrying that we don't even recognize. And
Hmm.
so when we look at our to-do list and we're like, well, wait, why hasn't I checked a lot of boxes? I
Yeah.
don't understand why they're not checked. Well, it's
Yeah.
because
Why are they not checked? I don't get
right,
it.
we're mentally and physically exhausted by that point, right? So
Right.
Yeah, you
what are those few things? And I love the fact that you're like, I'm only going to do this one thing, but as long as I do it consistently, I'm winning.
Right.
And I wish we could all get to that point in that mindset.
Yeah. That
Mhm.
mindset piece is so big because another thing I've been trying to implement is checking the boxes for things that are outside of my to-do list. So at the end of the day, telling myself, what did I do really well today? Well, you know what I did well today? I got up, I worked, I put on makeup, I did my hair. That's a mental load to show up,
That's right.
period.
There are those days that we don't get on makeup and we don't comb our hair, and
Right.
and
And
those
that's
are okay
okay.
days too.
Yeah.
That's okay. Interesting you say that. I mentioned earlier, I spoke with a group that's trying to get on the LPGA tour
Mhm.
on Monday night. And one of the questions that they came up is they like, when you don't make the cut or you don't just, how do you celebrate your victories? Is one of the questions they asked me, which totally threw me off because I was like, oh, okay, wait, I'm supposed to be asking you guys questions, not vice versa. But it really made me think about that. And I told them there's certain ways I do that because to your point, sometimes we just don't stop to say, wow, look at all the stuff I did do. Just because it's not on the list or it's not what everybody else wants us to do.
Mhm.
I started keeping a journal of like my little victories. And it may not be something big to someone else, but to me, it's like, hey, look what I did. And then when I need a reminder, I can go back and read those.
Yeah.
And it makes me realize all the things I'm doing outside of what the norm is or what someone's expecting me to do. And that just helps me realize that there's a lot more going on in today's life than just what's on paper or what people see. And
Right.
that
Or
makes
what you see is a big part of it,
I think
because
that's
so
the
many people
hardest.
are in their phones seeing things and
I even saw this one
comparing.
woman on Instagram or something that was like, this is how to fill your Fridays when you're spending it by yourself. I'm like, why am I being told this by somebody else? Like, it should be I just don't want to follow your to-do list for your Friday solo. Like, what is mine? But why is that being fed to me?
well, and that's a one thing I tell a lot of people is if you don't control your time, someone else will.
Mm,
And that's the problem is we let other people control our times. And people ask me, what's one consistent non-negotiable every week that you do? And I
mm,
have a meeting with myself. It's 1 hour. It's not a lot. It's 1 hour. And I tell people all the time, I don't break meetings with other people. Why am I going to break meetings with myself or cancel a
wow.
meeting? And
Hmm.
that 1 hour, I could go for a walk. I could go have a massage. I could just sit and respond to the emails because I feel somewhat overwhelmed.
Yeah.
But it gives me that
Mhm.
1 hour that I know and I'm so protective over that's mine.
Is
Yeah.
that every day or once a week?
I only do it once a week. I mean, I try. I mean, look, I'm not great at everything, but I mean, I can justify the once a week. Now,
Yeah.
once a day, I might start getting in my own psyche on that one. But
Yeah,
once a week, I'd always know
yeah,
that hour is there and it's
Mhm.
mine
yeah.
because
I
I feel like,
actually
I'm
yeah,
going
I
to
get
do that one.
I
I'm
just
writing that
started
one
doing
down.
that. I'm so excited. I want to share too because I wanted to do that in my mind. I've told myself I'm doing that since January. I wasn't doing it. I love your perspective of don't cancel on yourself, but I decided if I named it something fun and enticing, then it would be good. And I'm kind of playing with the title. I have a few different ones, but a few things I came up with maybe people can steal. I right now I'm calling it the Rich Life Ritual. I'm going to start with that. The other options I had was prosperity.
RLR.
Yeah, Rich Life Ritual. And I have like dollar signs and stars and stuff. And it's on my calendar. Then I have prosperity practice. I have dream life dashboard hour. So trying to like romanticize it a little bit to make it enticing for myself.
but just don't make sure it's just not another hour where you stress yourself out too
Yeah.
about how do I achieve those things.
Right.
It's, to me, it's more of even if it's just taking a breath
Yeah.
where, because again, we do spend all that time trying to figure out how can I get here, here, here. And then we're adding another thing that it's almost like, oh my gosh, one more thing I got to do. And so utilize that, maybe it's just you're taking a breath to
Yeah.
stop and smell the roses.
Yeah.
Of we're caught up in this fast day pace of everything. Maybe it's just taking that maybe 5 minutes of just breathing and just saying, gosh, thank you for everything that I have. And
Mhm.
look, I used to not believe in the gratitude and all that, the stuff that people talk about. And
Yeah.
now as I get older, I realize how important that is and how important it is for my own mindset.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And the better my mindset is, the better it is everyone around me. I'm learning.
Yeah.
because you get what you put off. And so if
Yes.
I got that positive energy coming out to others, they're going to give that back to me. And so if I'm stressed out, they're stressed out. So it's like it's a hard navigation because again, we all say we don't have any more time, right? I don't have any more time. Where am I going to fit it in?
Right.
You got to be creative. But that's what women do, and we just do it. And I don't think we're ever going to stop. I mean, let's just be honest.
Mhm.
But how can we help navigate it in a way where we don't burn ourselves out? And
And
that's where
burnout is real.
it's
It's so
huge.
real.
It's
Yeah.
huge. And that's what I see in a lot of women, my age. They're like, why am I even doing this anymore? Because A, we need you to, and the world's going to be a better place because of it. But also, how do we change the narrative for the younger generation so they don't get to that point?
Yeah. I'm really appreciative of in the top you giving us your age when you made these pivots, because I think a lot of times for every age group of women, we're like, we are missing the mark. If I'm almost 35, I'm not married, I don't have a single family home, I don't have any kids, I've missed the mark. Or, you're saying at 41, you had kind of like, oh, who am I and how can I contribute? I think that's important to, and you said before, I was still very young. I think that's the thing that we forget. We feel like in our 20s, we have to have it all figured out.
Yeah.
Who, like, what?
You're
No.
barely out of your
You're
teens.
right.
Let's
Like,
be
no.
honest.
You are yet, yes.
Barely.
Right.
Life yet. Now, when you're 20, you think you have, but let's go ahead and
Yeah.
say now that I'm over 50, I can say, no, you haven't. Okay, so keep
Yeah.
going.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Like looking
Just
back
enjoy
at
yourself
20s,
now.
it's
Don't think
so
about anything.
young. Right. And then, I think I'm so grown. I'm 34, but no, I'm like literally still just becoming a woman. Like I sit in
Yeah,
my
just
apartment
becoming.
and I'm like, oh, I'm an adult. The other day I went out, I wanted to get tacos. I wanted to get tacos. I was like, I just need a chip. I'm going to go spend it on some tacos and I want a margarita. And then I left the house and I was like, I should probably go grocery shopping.
These are big girl problems. I
Right?
just
Like
want some
I'm like I'm
tacos
still
and
like
I just want some chips and
right,
let's
but
go
this
to
is
the
this
you
is
know
30-year-old things, right?
Don't you deserve it though? I mean, we
yeah
do everything for everyone. Why
yeah
can't we every once in a while just say, you know what? I just kind of need this. I'm going to
Right.
put that
yeah
on the back burner. And
Right.
I'll go back to your 35-year-old. So I was 37 when I had my daughter, and I went through that same aha moment of,
Mhm.
oh my gosh, I'm running out of time.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't need children. My career is good enough, right? And that was my mindset is,
Mhm.
I'll worry about it later. It's never a good time. It's interesting because we do think we have to have it all figured out because there's this perception in our head, in your 20s you get married, then you have these kids and da, 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 da. And
Right.
now you're starting to see that shift significantly.
Right.
And I can truly say I didn't really even know who I was as a person until I was in my 40s.
Yeah.
And I think that's also because you stop living by everyone else's rules and you start
standard.
realizing
Yep.
I didn't create
Yeah.
these. Why am I living by this?
Right.
And
Right.
you start to become your own in
Yeah.
regards to how you want to live and what's important to you. What does success mean? How do I want to have freedom?
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
those things. It's a transition. And I think the old school mentality of you got to have it all figured out because this is how it was
Right.
is over and done.
Yeah.
Yeah. My
I
first
truly I
child was born when I was 36.
yeah.
My second child was born when I was 44. And everyone said, oh my God, you're 44, blah, blah. They tell you in statistics. And I just kept saying, you know what? That's your thought. It's not my
Right.
thought. And yes, there were days where I was like the grandma in my son's
Me,
kindergarten class.
I got 2 8-year-olds and I'm in my 50s. They're like, oh, is that your grandma? No, I'm their mom.
I know
Right.
I'm the mom. Excuse me,
Yes.
I'm the mom.
That's a fun one at that. So let's just talk about that. So,
Right.
but I do think that's the old narrative. And I think that that's a lot of, and I talk a lot in my book, The Success Lie, about having to choose between career and family. Because that's what I always felt like. You could either have one or the other. You couldn't have the both.
Mhm.
And it's fascinating after I had my daughter. Now I did change a lot. Don't kid yourself. I swore to everybody I wasn't going to change. I did, but I became a better person because of it. And
Hmm.
I tell people all the time, being a parent makes me a better CEO. Being a CEO makes me a better parent. So instead of figuring out how do I balance all these things, let's talk about how do we integrate them together.
Yeah.
Yes, and I've always, from the very beginning, when I've been doing women's leadership classes for over 20 years now, I've been doing first in the market, I would say. And it's interesting because everyone was into work life balance, work life. And I said, there's no such thing. You can't balance them, but you can integrate them. because so many women were leaving themselves at home to come into the workspace. How do you leave yourself at home? How do you leave having kids? How do you leave that stuff at home? How do you leave taking care of parents? You have to bring that stuff with you to work. And it integrates really well if you see them as not separate, but as a whole of who you are. And it makes a big difference. So no work-life balance. If there are people still out there, get rid of it, throw it away. It's all about work-life integration.
Integration.
I love this, the title of your book, Success Lies. Say a little bit about that.
Yeah, so success lie is really around just my journey and that lie of when you get that finally get the success that you think you deserve or you've earned, that everything's going to be perfect. That's not the
Hmm.
case. And so it's like, how do we reframe that, and look back and say, okay, these are the things I was told, but let's talk about what success means to me. I mean, what it meant to me 15 years ago is very different than what it means to me now. So, how can we have a realistic view and expectations on how we live our lives and what we can achieve and what we can't? Women we're sometimes our own worst enemy. Perfectionism.
Hmm.
Everything has to be perfect before we do. I mean, guys, they get an idea and boy, they started a company. Women, we've written the business plan, we've reevaluated 587 times, we've talked to
Told our
everybody we
friends.
know.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's a different mindset. So
It's
how
different.
can we get more confident in ourselves of saying, hey, you know what? And I tell people all the time, what's good enough in your world? Because my 70%, maybe somebody else is 100%, vice
Hmm.
versa. So what's good enough where you feel confident to do those leaps? And I think that that's where women have to be because we're we're used to, and I'm just going to go back to our upbringings. I'm not blaming my childhood on my issues, but be seen, not heard,
Oh
sit and
my
be
goodness.
quiet, all of those things. Well, hey guys, we've got to stop that. When you walk in a room, people are going to judge you, and it's not by what you say. It's the first 10 seconds of how you present yourself.
Yeah.
And so if we can walk in like we own the place,
I love that.
then they're going to treat us like that. If we walk in meek and passive and sit in the back of the room, that's how they're going to treat us. And it's not about arrogance. It's about preparation. It's
Hmm.
about confidence. It's about knowing your own value. And I want women to understand we have an immense amount of value. I mean, look at the statistics. Now y'all are gonna get me all wound up. Look at the statistics. We make 80% of the decisions in our household, right?
Hmm.
Why are we not investing in those companies? Why are we not building our own wealth? Why are we giving that to someone else? So how do we capture that stuff back? And it's funny. It's about giving women permission. It's like we're waiting for permission for
Yeah.
someone to say, hey, you have the permission to go do this.
Yeah.
Fascinating to me, but that's sometimes what they need to hear. So if I can be
Hmm.
everyone's cheerleader, pick me. I'm in because I can do
She
that.
is the cheerleader. We interviewed
Yes.
her. We always do interviews before we do the interview just to see who are we dealing with here. And this one right here, this one,
She is an
she is
advocate
a
for
cheerleader. She
women.
was in her car all over the place. It's
Yeah.
like, oh my goodness, okay.
That's
Yeah.
that integration part we were talking about. I
Yeah.
think I probably had to pick up kids and all this, it's
Yeah.
logistics.
I think you
Yeah.
were, but
Yeah.
truly, and I think that's one thing I had a aha moment for myself, which sounds so crazy, but it's like a wake up, like, wait a minute, I'm in charge of my life. What have I been doing? Hello, I can make the decisions. I can, and I love that I have one of my best friends, and she would hate that I'm even calling her a friend right now. She's family. She's my sister. She's out there listening. But she tells me before, I go to events or before I do a keynote or before I just even hang out with friends, she's like, are you kidding me? You own 71% of that building. Walk in that room like you do.
That's right.
The percentages change sometimes depending on, but every time it's over 50. It's always over 50. It's usually over 70. But before I go into rooms, I tell myself that. Before I make decisions, I say I own 51% of this. I'm going to go in there and act like that. But you have to pour that into yourself because, as you said, the way that society either raised
Mhm.
or what we're seeing on our feeds tell us differently. So we really have to wake up. This is our life. You're in charge. It doesn't matter if you're male or female. Be you, be present, show up for yourself.
And it is trainable. I mean, maybe trainable is not the right word. There are skill sets that will allow you to step into a room and hold your own.
Mhm.
And these are the things that we teach in communication and some people call it public speaking. We call it communications training.
Yeah.
And as I said training, I realized training is the wrong word. There are skills that will help you reveal yourself.
Mhm.
They'll help you unveil who you are. And those skills will kind of hold you in place as
Mhm.
you play with the template of who you are. It's interesting. We talked about these age changes that happen. And at every age, every big age, because I just turned 70. So that's a big age change. At every one of those changes, you have to see yourself in a different way. You have to allow yourself to be different in a different way because society will tell you. I mean, 70, society is definitely telling me something. And I don't even want to say what they're trying to tell me because it's not anything that I've ever ascribed to ever in my life. I mean, here's a woman who had a baby at 44. I mean, we thought 36 was something. So the bottom line is there are skill sets that will allow you to walk into a room and hold that presence that we just
Mhm.
talked about. But there are also skill sets that you can find in terms of mindset that allows you to choose your own mindset.
Mhm.
Choose your mindset. You don't have to go with the group. And I think that that whole idea of a success lie, the biggest lie is that you have to be like everyone else. Well, usually the people who are different are the ones that are succeeding. They're
Well,
the
and
ones.
yes, and I'd like to just kind of give an example on that. When I was younger in my career, I thought I had to be a certain way. I was like a little dictator, telling everybody what to do, yeah, do it my way or no way. And I was very unrelatable to the point where many years later they would tell me, "Oh, when you'd walk in, we'd all scatter. We'd wait to see who you would speak to
Oh,
first." I was like,
oh
"Wow,
no.
really? That's not who I am." And I realized I wasn't being authentic to myself because I thought I had to be a certain way to gain respect.
Mm.
And
Hmm.
one day, just kind of those aha moments, I'm like, why am I being like this? This is not who I am as a person. I'm a very caring person. I'm an empathetic person, very direct, but I can also be me and be a great leader at the same time. And when I became relatable and actually cared and showed people that I cared about them as a whole, not just the job, my leadership skills went through the roof. Why? Because people knew I cared and I was relatable. And no longer was I this figure way up here. It was, you're one of us.
Mhm.
Again, doesn't mean I didn't have high standards and I didn't have expectations, but
Right.
it allowed people to relax. And I was able to create a safe environment where they could really be successful. And I think we forget about that sometimes because we think we have to be. I love this one. Women are too emotional. Have we all heard that? Women can't be leaders because they're too emotional. And I used to believe that. And then I was like, wait a minute, you want me to basically not be compassionate, not be empathetic because that makes me weak? No, that makes me stronger at the end of
No,
the
well,
day.
yeah, those skills are the skills that really are the backbone of leadership skills
Yeah.
for men and women.
Yeah.
I mean, so
Exactly.
many men that I've worked with in coaching, executive coaching, trying to get them to let themselves experience and to talk about their emotions is a big piece to the puzzle. And it is, those are leadership skills because people, once they see that you have emotions, they see that you're relatable.
Mhm.
And
That's right.
that's what you were just saying is that being relatable is a big part of the game.
Yeah,
That's a
because a
whole
lot of
piece.
leadership has to do with trust and seeing yourself in the other person. You want to believe
Yeah,
in them because you see that you can be
yeah,
that person, but
I
you
do.
have to be relatable to be able to lead for sure.
I love that you were the tyrant, though. I'm sure
Well,
that there was a little bit of tyrant in all of us.
fortunately, most of them are still with me 15 years later. Like, boy, have you changed? I'm like, no, no, I've always been the same. Like, no, 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 you haven't. But I had a great example. I had to terminate my director of human resources for my hospital company, and I mean, I was distraught because as an individual, I loved this person, and I also knew the devastation this was going to cause her because this was her life. But sometimes as leaders, we have to do things that are in the best interest of the organization.
Yeah.
And I'm pep talking myself going in. I'm like, okay, don't cry, keep it together. You got to be the boss here. And guys, I got in there and just tears were just flowing before I
Mhm.
even spoke. And it was a hard conversation. And I was very transparent. I was very, just
Oh,
direct. And I'm like, this just isn't the right place for you. And as hard as that hour was for me, 6 months later, she calls me and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, she's gonna come back and blow up my house. And she called me. She's like, you know what? She goes, I just wanted to call and tell you, thank you so much. Thank you
oh
for
my.
being the leader you were at that time.
Yeah.
You were compassionate. You were empathetic. You sat there and you listened to me cry. And she's like, and by the way, I found the job of my dreams.
Oh,
Oh my
I
goodness.
never would have left if you hadn't have forced me. And she goes, I know you believed in me, and I left there believing in myself.
Oh, amazing.
And those are the types of stories that you realize that what we think and what we are, be authentic, because that's what's going to make a difference in people's
Mm-hmm.
lives.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
And again, we, I'm all about the numbers too. Don't get me wrong. No money, no mission, but we can do it in a compassionate way
Yeah, we
where
can.
we're giving agency to people to be in an environment where they can be the most successful.
Yeah. And I think that's
Yay.
really key these days. I think so many people are out there sitting like we are, like, how do I show up authentically? I'm in a space where I don't feel comfortable, I don't feel safe, and so many people are searching for how to
Mm-hmm.
be that person. It's just so necessary today. I know with my friend group and even here at work, we're like, there's too much not good stuff happening. We need to find a way to just feel good being ourselves, feel good in our own bubble first.
Well, and think about it. You spend probably more time with your peers than you do your families. And
Hmm.
so I used to be like, "Oh, don't be friends with anyone at work because again, then it causes issues and drama." But wait a minute, these are people that I spend a lot of time with.
Yeah.
You do start caring about them, but also they care about you. And now you have some accountability to each other
Hmm.
because you are friends in that scenario. And to your
Mm-hmm.
point, you want it to be a safe environment. Again, there's always extremes out there. People always say, come back with the most extreme situations. Like there's always extremes. But at the end of the day, if you want people to be creative, if you want them to be productive, you want them in a great environment because 8 hours out of your day to be miserable is a lot of your life.
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
I tell people all the time, if you're miserable, maybe that's just not the right place for you. And
That's
then,
true.
and they say, oh, well, I can't go find another job. Well, then you figure out how to manage within that.
Yeah.
But, life is a short journey and make sure that you're living it to the fullest and being happy with what you're doing at the same
That's
Right.
time.
true. That's very
Right.
true.
Look at these. We see these decades as short 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s. But you have so much time to pivot and choose yourself. Ultimately, if it fails, you learn from it. What is a fail really? Let's see what the successes are in that fail because you learned something. And I think that's what we've heard throughout this whole episode today is truly let's the success lie.
Yeah.
Some of the things you've learned is a lie. See where your success actually lies for yourself, not based on what is told to you or what you thought you were supposed to do. Really feel within yourself where to go.
Well,
Yeah.
and Denise, you mentioned it earlier about ages. Of course, when we're 20, we think 50, you're almost dead. Well, I just turned 52 and I'm like, I'm just getting started,
I
Yeah.
know.
right?
You
I'm in
just
the
start
best.
to know some things at 50. I felt that way too. At 50, you
Exactly.
just start to know some things and you
Well,
really do pick up and turn on your heels and get some things going. I mean, there's a little bit of that, oh my goodness, 50, and pretty soon I'll be 20 more years, I'm 70, but think about 70, 20 more years, I'll be 90. And people are living way beyond 90 now and looking really good. I saw a picture of a woman the other day. She looked like she was 65. She was 95 years old.
it's
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 amazing what
it,
is going
it is.
on. And so part of the whole age thing and how we take each year or each decade is an important piece, but again, it's not a linear thing, and life would have you think that it's linear, that you do this and then you do this, and by the time you get here you do this, and that's not the case. I mean, there's some pieces to those puzzles that you kind of, I'm not as fast as I used to be, that's true, but in terms of what I can create and the people that I can inspire, the lives I can touch, that is not on a linear continuum. It's more on a spiraled continuum.
Mhm.
So I just say, let's all go for it. We got some decades here.
Sure. And look, I'm not it's like go back and be another CEO, run another company. I don't want
Yeah.
that anymore.
Yeah.
Been
It changes.
right,
It's like, how do I spend my time? How do I spend my
exactly.
free time that has now been taken? So
Yeah.
yeah,
It's
I
kind
think
of like
it's really good.
the Arthur Brooks mentality, strength of strength. It's like, you get to certain places. Now I'm in that more wisdom side. How can I share my wisdom with the younger? I don't
Hmm.
need to be in the day to day, but how can I share my wisdom to help the next generation get to that level? And I
Hmm.
used to not be okay with that because, I wanted to be in the mix of everything and be like, oh, no, 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 I got to do it myself. And I got to be, the one right in the middle of all of it. Now I'm like, I'm okay not being there.
Mhm.
I'm okay with sitting back and just giving knowledge and letting other people run with
So
it. And
here's the question. Did you allow yourself to go to the world's largest rodeo last month?
Of course, of course. How can you be interested and not go to the rodeo? Now, I will tell you, I didn't know many of the singers. I mean, like the good old days, the George Straits of the world. But now it's like all these kids, I have no idea who they
That's
are.
happening to me too. I'm like, wait a minute. I must be
Yeah.
getting old because I don't recognize
So
the
for
singers'
for
names.
the
So don't be
podcast, a
so
lot of
focused on
fun.
the outcome. Enjoy the journey.
Yeah.
Just enjoy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Growth
exactly.
lives in those gaps in between when we're
Good
trying to figure it
reminder.
out.
Sometimes I'm a little too serious for life. I
Yeah.
Yeah.
need to lighten up a bit. Just a
Life is a good thing, guys. I mean, like, are you always the fun one? No, I can be real serious, but why? I mean,
Don't
live
need
life and enjoy it. So
Yes.
just
thank you guys so
enjoy.
much for having me today. I
Yeah.
love this
You're
conversation.
welcome.
Well,
Me
one thing
too.
I love to do before we end is I have two questions. One, if there was anything you felt like before you started with us that you had to say that you want people to know, what would it be?
I think it's what we just talked about. Don't stay so focused on the journey because the outcome, because you forget about the journey
Mm.
and you never know where the next opportunities come from. So network with people, talk to people. You might be amazed of what you can learn and what you find out and how people are going to help you. So, I mean, those are my big things I tell people all the time. We sometimes take for granted that, we have a lot of time. Enjoy that time, but make sure you're intentional with it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And the
that's true.
second one is how do we find you? What do we need to know about you? What are you working on? Tell us those things.
Oh gosh, all the fun stuff. So my book is coming out, The Success Lie. Thank you so much for asking. We will launch on July 28th. It's already available for sale through Amazon, through Barnes and Noble, all your major distributors. But also, I would love if you find this valuable. I have a podcast as well, Get Real, Get Results. A little bit different format. We're short, quick, just kind of a happy-go-lucky talk to you on the mornings. I'm very vulnerable. Some days I have good days and some days bad days. You don't know what you're going to get. But follow the podcast. We're on YouTube and then obviously Instagram, LinkedIn. Like everyone else, I always have a hard time promoting myself, but there's lots of different channels. And then my website is chantelpreston.com.
Great. Perfect. And we'll link
Yay.
everything for you here. We have it provided. So that will be
And
in
we
the
just
show
say,
notes.
yeah.
Yeah.
And for your followers, tell them to follow you with us
Yeah,
because the bigger the
absolutely.
circle can be, the better. The more that we create a sustainable circle, the better. So
Yeah.
we can leverage each other's lives, we can leverage each other's experiences, and it just makes us whole. Well,
Yes.
thank you
Absolutely.
so much for being with us, Chantel. We're also going to stay on for a minute to just let you know how you can get in touch with us. One of the most important things to remember is that this podcast, we usually do about monthly. We give people a chance. We want people to be able to enjoy and spend time and be with it and come back to it. But we also want you to subscribe and follow. That's very important. We talk about building community so that you can become more whole within yourself. So this is a place where you come to bring your voice to the table. You can also catch us at www.speakingwithimpact.com. That's the mothership right there. And when you go in, you can click on the Women Express tab, and a lot of things that we're doing, including summits, are there. But the main thing we want you to know is that we're in all the different places: Instagram, all the places that you can find podcasts, all the places that LinkedIn is. You can find us there. Send your friends. Send your friends. We're excited. We're glad that you're excited. Please, 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 again, follow and subscribe. Come to our next party together, our next podcast party together, and look up Chantell. She's got some good stuff going on, and I think life is going to be great on her side of the fence, too. This is how women share. So come on, women. Let's express.
Yay.
Thank you for being with us in our podcast today. Bye for now.
Right. We are so excited to welcome the Women Express Patreon. This is something that we've been wanting to bring to you guys for a really long time. So we're so excited you're here. What we want out of the Patreon is to create an intentional space for our listeners who want to grow in communication, confidence, leadership, and impact while building community. We really wanted to create a space for our Women Express community. So what you'll get out of this Patreon is exclusive live conversations, bonus communication and leadership tips, behind the scenes moments between me and my mom. If you don't know, now you know, Denise is my mom. We'll have featured drink recipes with our sips and tips that will happen, deeper reflections from the podcast, perhaps special guests as well from past podcasts and future, and a community. We want you all to be able to come together, get to know each other, and have opportunities to gather outside of just listening to us. We want to go from in your ears to in front of you. So our goal is simple: to create a space where women can learn, connect, and evolve and show up fully together in every room that we enter. So thank you for being a part of this beginning with us with our Patreon. We'll announce the tiers shortly for how you can participate and at which level. But the first place for you to participate is our very first Patreon Sips and Tips. Now, we've done this before, but now this is exclusive to our Patreon subscribers. So the first one you can join will be on June 4th at 6 p.m. We'll be talking about a specific topic that dives into women's leadership. So grab your favorite drink, grab a friend, and come sip and learn and grow with us.